Well, and I'll say the benchmark revision that goes to last March was almost 900,000 down. There are other revisions from the birth death model that come in the months after that. By December of last year, the downward revision was over 1 million jobs.
Yeah.
So now we got the best possible outcome today. We knew these revisions were coming, and again, we can talk about what's behind them, but to see the most recent readings, we've got some lift in the payrolls in January. It's just 1 month, but we got some lift, and the unemployment rate ticked down. So we want to see a labor market that's stabilizing and coming out of this, but these are huge revisions.
Dr. Sahm, I'm sitting in the back of the class at Michigan hiding. You and the smart people are up front. Okay, my fancy math is 1 million jobs lost for whatever Claudia Sahm, Diane Swank reason, divided by 12 is 83,333 jobs evaporated every 30 days out of our belief, our fabric of the American labor economy. Do I have that right?
So the revisions actually go back further. The first month that will be revised down because of the benchmark was April of 2024, right? They take the annual benchmark revision is wedged in over the prior 12 months. So we're that million down, that's happening over a span of time. But if you look at the monthly changes last year, the new estimates, there's a lot of red. I mean, there's a lot of months where we were dipping, into the not, destroying jobs. So these are big numbers. It is spread out over a period of time, but there's something here for us to understand about what exactly is happening with job creation and how comforted should we be by the latest numbers. Have we turned the corner, or is that just an aberration and we're going to get back into these really low numbers?
How do you think the Fed is going to react to these numbers, Claudia? Again, the change in non-farm payrolls coming in for the month of January, much, much better than expected.
Yeah, so the Fed knew about this. The Bureau of Labor Statistics published its preliminary estimate of the benchmark revision back in September. It was for a negative 900,000. My goodness, it was almost, right on the money. And this is certainly, you've heard Fed Governor Waller mention this in his dissent, but also Fed Chair Powell talked about, revision. So these numbers aren't surprising. I mean, really the news today, maybe the most recent months, the January, again, not to overplay it, but it's good news to see that kind of number and the unemployment rate ticking down. So this is not a surprise to the Fed. Right, we knew this was going to be in the data.
But you published a chart last night, folks. It was in English, unlike anything I would do. And Claudia Sahm, I mean, you said within the dynamics of the labor economy that the dearth of immigration plays into this. I mean, your chart's a little spike up, a little line up. Mm-hmm. Are we at 4.3% because of immigration dynamics where we ought to be at, say, 5.3%?
So I think the immigration dynamics, and we've seen a big swing, a lot more immigration than had been typical, and then a big slowdown in immigration. That certainly is important in understanding what is up with these jobs numbers that just really hit a wall. So but it is not the only factor behind it. We have still seen the unemployment rate drift up. We are not. Labor demand for workers is not keeping up with the supply of workers, right? But so the unemployment rate is giving us a much better picture of this kind of gradual problem that's building. The payrolls, because it has the supply of workers has just shifted so abruptly. The message from the payrolls looks a lot scarier than it is, but I don't want to write it off. Right? We still see wage growth slowing, unemployment rate drifting up. And certainly for groups like, people new to the labor market, this is a very tough job market.
Tough job market. Just real quickly, that 862,000 final benchmark revision, just put that into context for us.
It's big.
Yeah.
It should be about 6/10 of total payroll employment, something like that, 5/6.
Right.
And before last year, a typical had been more like 1/10 of the level. Last year's was pretty big too. So, the average over the last 10 years has been about 2/10. So this is 3 times larger. And we've had 2 of these in a row. And again, I want to stress, this is not a sign the Bureau of Labor Statistics is asleep at the wheel. This is just, we have some major dynamics happening in the economy, and it's really tough to measure them in real time. And so we're kind of catching up, and it should help then people trying to understand the labor market. Still a lot of puzzles, but we've got better data today, and that is a really good starting point for understanding where we're going and what policymakers might want to do.
So, Claudia, help me here. Folks, Diane Swan coming up, and Eric Winograd here in a moment with Alliance Bernstein. So Eric Winograd's up at Dartmouth, freezing, unlike the cushy Ann Arbor weather. Claudia Sahm, he's taken the sevens. He's taken labor economics. Is this your brilliance, Claudia, out on Twitter last night? The academics right now of our labor economics. Is this in the textbooks Eric Winograd studied?
Every recession has its own dynamics, but ever since the pandemic showed up, the labor market has been doing things that are just unusual, if nothing else, in their magnitudes. We've just had some really abrupt swings, and so, I think this business cycle really does stand out.
Right.
And but it may stand out in good ways. Maybe that gradual rise in the unemployment rate without a recession, maybe that's what a soft landing actually looks like. We don't ever get those. So this doesn't have to be a bad news story, but there's certainly tensions. And I just want people to remember, just because we avoid a recession doesn't mean it's good enough.